Australian Rural Leadership Foundation has been going for around 22 years now. We have an alumni of over 600 graduates, many of whom are in key leadership positions both politically and industry and in community as well. We exist to build leadership capacity throughout rural, regional and remote Australia. Sure, in agriculture, but right across the board. Health, education, local government, you name it. So that is what we exist for, to improve that leadership capacity in the bush, if you like, and through that to lift and to be able to provide those regional and rural and remote areas with the lift they need to face the challenges ahead of them. So if you look at why we were founded in the first place, part of that was upon the premise that if you looked at why regional and rural communities were either successful or not in a global context, a lot of that came down to the people and the leadership in those communities, not necessarily their access to resources or other factors. So that's strongly behind why we were formed and why we're still here today.
How long has the foundation existed? And if I'm a young man kicking around the back blocks of Burke or Bullingarook, how are you going to impact on my life?
That's a good point. We've been around for 22 years, so we've been around for almost a generation now. What we tend to do is we take people on in terms of the Australian Rural Leadership Program, an 18-month journey. It's a long journey. It's a solid commitment by both the individual and their organisation and or community. But we do that because we believe that produces the best results. So we tend to take people who've taken the first step or two on their own leadership journey and to take them and lift them rapidly on that journey along the way. So, but then again, where does that occur in someone's life? It could occur anywhere, and basically people who are doing the program now could be anywhere between their mid-20s and their mid-50s. So it's not necessarily at one end or the other. It depends on where they're at on that particular journey.
Sadly, that rules me out. When you say you lift them, I mean, what sort of programs do you have in place? If you identify a talented man or woman, how do you A, identify them, and B, what sort of conversation do you have with them?
Look, it's a competitive process. It's an application and interview process. So we obviously, through our networks, through our partners and sponsors, through our graduates and alumni, and more broadly, we go out there seeking these people, wherever they may be. If they're successful in getting onto the program, then it's in a number of stages. As I said, it goes over 18 months, and it's around about 60 face days over that period. So again, a heavy commitment, but it works on the premise that the individual understands themselves a lot better and how they operate. They're then able to operate a lot better with other people and working in teams and leading in those areas. And then as much as possible, what we do is experiential. So sure, we expose them to ideas and theories that might be out there, but then we drop them into as close to real life situations as possible to test that along the way. The 18-month period also gives them the chance to go back to their community or their job and to test those ideas out there. So they go through with a cohort of about 30 other leaders, and of course once they graduate, they're in this alumni of over 600 people now, so that gives them that significant network as well.
That sounds terrific. How is the foundation actually financed, and what is your, say, investment in each individual soon-to-be alumni?
Well, we are financed through scholarships, so in that sense we're not sitting on a large capital fund there that's funding this each year. So those sponsors and partners are from government, from the philanthropic sector and from corporate Australia as well, all three of those. And they're funding either one or more scholarships each year. So obviously if it's a scholarship funded by someone like MLA, then they would open that up to beef producers and others in that sector to apply. There are also open scholarships, so anyone can apply to those, for instance, RERDIC. So it just depends on where you sit, but it does offer a range of opportunities across the scope of rural and regional Australia.
Very good. You're relatively new in the job. How are you finding it? And where do you want to take the foundation, say, in 5 years' time, assuming that's a timeline you recognise?
Thanks, Mike. I'm really enjoying the role. I'm a graduate myself. I did the program about 13 or 14 years ago. I think I'm the first graduate to lead that organisation. So where do I want to take it? I want to ensure that we're still here and being able to do what we do for rural and regional Australia in 5 years' time. In order to do that, an environment where, as you know, finding that sort of funding is getting harder to come by, we need to look at what we do. And while leadership development and capacity building will remain at the core of what we do throughout that program, there may be other ways that we can play a part, particularly drawing on that alumni to help face some of the challenges and grasp some of the opportunities that we've been talking about in rural and regional Australia and agriculture and other fields, for many a year now. So I think there's scope to do that, and in order to do that, part of that is also to ensure people know who we are and what we do, and that profile's there.
Very good. Well, it's been good to give you an opportunity to tell us a bit about the Secret Society today. Just before we close off, we live in exciting times in agriculture, and we're here at the National Farmers Federation Congress. You're the recently resigned CEO of the NFF. I don't expect you to talk about any regrets you may have, because this is an ongoing journey and you've been part of it. Are you excited by the sort of the quality of the presentations and the prospects for agriculture and perhaps our understanding of the importance of agriculture?
Oh, I am, Mike. I really have enjoyed what I've seen here over the last couple of days. What I will say, though, is in order to grasp that opportunity that is in front of agriculture, no doubt there is that opportunity there. There's a range of things that need to happen. I won't go into what individuals and businesses need to do, that's their call. But from a representative, on a representative front, I think the NFF has been proactive in saying, is there a better way that we can do this right across the system to deliver the best representation we can for farmers? I think they then, not just the NFF, but all of those organisations through the system, the opportunities in front of them to grasp hold of that and to do that in a way, there's nothing wrong with what's happened in the past, but is that model going to be sustainable into the future? I think they've all recognised that that's going to be difficult. So grab hold of that opportunity. In order to do that, strangely enough, Mike, some leadership is definitely required. That will require some people to get off their dunghills and to put, in this case, agriculture before their own interests. If people are able to do that, then we will see success.
Matt Linngar, great words again. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Mike.